You think you know someone. You build a life, dream of a future, only to have your entire world shatter into a million pieces with a single, devastating click. My name is your name, and I thought I'd finally found the one, until I stumbled upon a secret so profound, it exposed a double life I could never have imagined. I honestly don't even know where to begin with this absolute train wreck. For just over 2 blissful years, Leonard was everything. We rarely argued, our future goals aligned perfectly, and he was always so incredibly attentive. We were even excitedly planning to move in together that fall. After a string of dating disasters, I genuinely believed I'd finally found my person, my forever. But that beautiful fantasy? It didn't just crash, it evaporated into thin air last Friday. My phone was dead, and I just needed to look up a recipe, so I innocently grabbed his laptop. And that's when my entire world tilted on its axis. His banking app was still logged in, and right there, staring me in the face, was a recurring payment that screamed betrayal. $800. Every single month. To someone named Addison Rent. Who was Addison? He'd never, ever mentioned her. My heart was pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs when Leonard finally emerged from the shower. I tried to keep my voice steady, but the tremor was undeniable. Who is Addison? I asked. The color drained from his face. The look in his eyes, it said everything before he even uttered a sound. He got quiet, weird, then asked why I wanted to know. I told him straight. I saw the payment on your banking app. He finally sat down, and that's when the first layer of lies began to peel away. Addison, he admitted, was his ex-girlfriend from before we met. And yes, he'd been paying her entire rent for years, the entire duration of our relationship. He swore they weren't romantically involved, just close friends, and she needed financial support. I pressed him. How often do you talk? His answer? Almost daily. Daily contact. With an ex. For 2 years. That he never, not once, mentioned to me. When I asked if he ever planned to tell me about this deeply entwined arrangement, he had the sheer nerve to say he didn't think it was relevant to our relationship because it was just financial support for a friend. Just financial support? That's over $43,000 he'd funneled to her during our time together. The worst part, the part that twisted the knife deepest, was recalling all the times he'd claimed to be tight on money when we talked about future plans, about vacations. We'd even split the bill on dates half the time because he said it was more equal that way. Meanwhile, he was sending his ex almost $2,000 a month. I felt like the biggest, most naive idiot on the planet. A white-hot rage, mixed with utter humiliation, flared inside me. Get out, I demanded, my voice shaking but firm. Get out of my apartment now. He tried to explain, tried to say I was overreacting, that there was context I didn't understand. But I didn't care about his context. Hiding a significant, ongoing relationship with an ex, while financially supporting her for 2 years. That was all the context I needed to know. He eventually left, but then my phone exploded. Dozens of texts. You misunderstood. I should have told you sooner. It's not what it looks like. I blocked his number that very night. The next day, the audacity reached new heights. Leonard actually showed up at my workplace, flowers in hand, hoping to smooth things over. My blood ran cold. I refused to even look at him, told him to leave immediately, or I'd call security. My coworkers were staring, whispers undoubtedly circulating, but I didn't care. Not one bit. He finally retreated when my manager intervened. That night brought another long-winded text explanation that I deleted without reading. Then he started contacting my friends, trying to manipulate them into convincing me to talk to him. Thankfully, every single one of them told him to back off. For the next week, I was a zombie, just trying to process the monumental betrayal. I replayed our entire 2 years together, searching for any flicker of a sign I might have missed. And oh, they were there. The strange protectiveness of his phone, stepping out for hushed calls. But I dismissed them, always. Because I trusted him. What an utter fool I'd been. My closest friends, bless their hearts, all validated my decision to end things immediately. My friend Samantha even confessed she'd always thought Leonard seemed too perfect and wondered if something was off. Great observation after the fact, Sam. The only person who didn't immediately jump to my defense was my sister, Holly. When I told her the whole sordid tale, she hesitated, then cautiously asked if I was absolutely sure I had the whole story. She suggested, gently, that maybe there was a legitimate reason, one I hadn't given Leonard a chance to explain. I reminded her, sharply, that regardless of his reason, he'd hidden this massive financial and emotional commitment from me for 2 years. That was unforgivable. But 3 weeks of agonizing silence later, Holly's words started to gnaw at me. What if there was more? It wouldn't change my decision to break up with him. That was final, but maybe, just maybe, it would help me understand how I'd been so utterly and completely fooled. So, I unblocked his number. Immediately, several new messages flooded in. The most recent one was simple. Can we meet? I have documentation that will make things clearer. Documentation? What kind of explanation needs documentation? Against every fiber of my better judgment, a desperate need for answers overriding my caution, I agreed to meet him. Tomorrow, at a coffee shop near my apartment. I made it explicitly clear. This wasn't about reconciliation. This was about closure. And as I sit here now, waiting for that meeting, a part of me screams to cancel. Am I making a huge mistake, even giving him this chance? But another deeper part just needs to know the full truth. I need to understand how someone I thought I knew so well could lead such an elaborate double life. By the way, if you're as hooked on this wild ride as I am and want to hear more jaw-dropping stories like mine, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what happens next. First update. I am overwhelmed by all your comments and support on my original post. Thank you, truly. Many of you predicted this would be some kind of crazy situation, and well, you weren't wrong. Not even close. I met Leonard yesterday, exactly as planned. My amazing sister Holly came with me, sitting discreetly at a nearby table, just like many of you suggested. All morning, I was a nervous wreck. My stomach was in knots, I couldn't eat, couldn't focus on anything. When I arrived, Leonard was already there, waiting. I sat down, my resolve like steel. You have 30 minutes, I told him, cutting straight to the chase. No interruptions from me. One chance. Tell me everything. He thanked me for coming, and then, bizarrely, pulled out a folder. A folder? Who brings a folder to a coffee shop breakup? He said he wanted to show me documentation so I'd understand the full situation. The first thing he presented was medical records for Addison. My breath hitched. Apparently, she has multiple sclerosis, diagnosed about 5 years ago, and her condition has worsened significantly. It's made it nearly impossible for her to work full-time, and that's why he started helping with her rent. I stared at him, my mind reeling. Why? I asked, my voice tight. Did you never mention this to me? Even if you're just friends now, helping someone with a chronic illness is something you tell your serious girlfriend about. His excuse was sickeningly familiar. Previous girlfriends had left him when they found out about his ongoing financial commitment to Addison. He was afraid of losing me, he claimed, so he kept putting it off until the web of lies became too tangled to escape. That's complete bullsh*t. I retorted, my anger flaring. If multiple women had left him over the exact same issue, that should have been a giant, screaming sign that being honest from the start was the only way. The fact that he kept repeating the same mistake, relationship after relationship, proved he knew exactly what he was doing. Leonard finally admitted I was right, that he'd handled everything terribly. He said he'd genuinely fallen in love with me and was terrified of ruining things. The longer our relationship went on, the harder it became to confess, because he knew I'd react exactly as I was. Then I hit him with it, point blank. How often do you actually see Addison in person?
This is where it got even more twisted.
He visits her about once a month. All those business trips he'd taken? Those college friend reunions? Every single one was a lie. They were all visits to her. My jaw dropped. The depth of his deception was truly unfathomable. I was ready to walk out, to end this twisted conversation right then and there. But he pleaded with me to wait, saying there was something else I needed to know. He pulled another document from his folder. An insurance form. It listed dependents. Addison was there, but then another name.
Ben.
Who is Ben? I whispered, a cold dread washing over me. Leonard got incredibly quiet again. Then he uttered the words that truly broke me. He's my son. A son? A child? That he never, not once, mentioned in 2 years of our serious relationship? I couldn't even speak. Ben, he explained, is 6 years old. He and Addison had already broken up when she found out she was pregnant. They tried to make it work after Ben was born, but ultimately weren't compatible. When Addison was diagnosed with MS a year later, Leonard promised to support them financially. I asked how involved he was in his son's life. He admitted he only saw Ben during those monthly visits. He didn't even talk to him on the phone between visits because he thought I might overhear. My fury reached a new peak. He was neglecting his own child, his son, just to maintain his pathetic lies to me. I looked at him, disbelief and disgust warring within me. Does Addison know about me? He claimed she did, that he told her about our relationship early on. But how could I believe a word he said? He'd proven himself to be a master manipulator. By this point, Holly had clearly sensed the escalating tension and moved to a closer table. I was so grateful for her silent support because I was completely overwhelmed. I need to process this, I told Leonard, my voice strained. Then I just left. Holly followed me, and we went straight to her apartment where I basically collapsed. Finding out about Addison was one thing, but discovering he had a child he'd hidden from me? That was a whole different universe of betrayal. Holly was as shocked as I was. She'd encouraged me to hear him out, but even she hadn't expected a bombshell of this magnitude. She asked what I planned to do, and honestly, I had no idea. I spent all of last night dissecting the situation from every possible angle. The fact that Leonard was supporting his child and his child's mother, who had a serious illness, it made the financial arrangement more understandable. But the deception? It was still colossal. What kind of person lies about being a father? What kind of father only sees his child once a month and pretends he doesn't exist the rest of the time? The more I thought, the more troubled I became by Leonard's treatment of his own son. This morning, more texts from Leonard. Can we talk again? There's still more you need to understand. I ignored them. I decided to do some digging of my own. I searched for Addison on social media and found her Instagram. It was public. And there, staring back at me, were countless pictures of her and a little boy who looked exactly like Leonard. Seeing those photos, it made everything so sickeningly real. As I scrolled, a new anomaly caught my eye. Several photos of her with another man, someone named Edwin. The captions were undeniably couple-y. Date night with my love. 3 years with this amazing man. I kept scrolling and found posts where she tagged Edwin as Ben's bonus dad, talking about how much he helped with Ben's care, how blessed they were to have him. This made absolutely no sense. If she had a serious boyfriend, a fiancé even, who was so actively involved in Ben's life, why was Leonard still paying her entire rent? I called Holly, practically hyperventilating, and she immediately came over. We pored over the posts together. And then we found it, a post from about 8 months ago. Addison announcing her engagement to Edwin. Yet, Leonard had never mentioned any of this and had continued paying her rent the entire time. Holly tried to rationalize it. Maybe Edwin didn't make enough, especially with Addison's medical bills. But something still felt deeply, fundamentally wrong. If Leonard only saw his son once a month, and Addison had a fiancé who was Ben's bonus dad, why was Leonard still supporting them so extensively? I started to wonder if there was more to Leonard and Addison's relationship than he was admitting. Were they still romantically involved despite her engagement? Or was Leonard being manipulated? I was tempted to reach out to Addison directly, but that felt like crossing a line. She might not even know who I was if Leonard had been lying to her, too. Holly thought I should meet with Leonard one more time, confront him with what I'd found, and demand the full story. I agreed. Tomorrow. I'm bringing printouts of Addison's social media posts. I need to know exactly what his relationship with Addison truly is, why he's still fully supporting her when she has a fiancé, and most importantly, why he thought it was okay to hide his son from me for 2 years. I'm trying to brace myself for whatever new bombshell he might drop next. So, I met with Leonard yesterday as planned. Holly was there again, sitting at a nearby table, my silent guardian. I had my printouts of Addison's Instagram posts, ready to unleash them. But before I could even bring up what I'd found, he started in again, trying to clarify things from our last conversation. I cut him off, my hand slamming the Instagram printouts onto the table. His face, when he saw the pictures of Addison and Edwin, was complicated. Not exactly surprised, more like a weary resignation. "Why?" I demanded, my voice icy. "Did you never mention that Addison has been in a serious relationship with another man for 3 years and is now engaged? If Edwin is playing bonus dad to Ben, why are you still paying their entire rent?" Leonard was quiet for a long minute. Then he explained that Edwin wasn't financially stable, a struggling musician who barely made enough for himself, let alone Addison and Ben. Leonard claimed he continued paying the rent because he wanted Ben to have a stable home, especially with Addison's health issues. I shot back. Why couldn't you just pay child support like a normal divorced parent instead of covering their entire housing cost? He insisted traditional child support wouldn't be enough given Addison's medical needs and inability to work full-time. He said he and Addison had worked out this arrangement years ago, and Edwin knew all about it when he got involved. This explanation, I admit, made some logical sense, but it still didn't justify the absolute wall of secrecy he'd built around me. I told him as much, and he actually agreed. He confessed he'd handled everything terribly, and keeping his son a secret was inexcusable. Then another bombshell. The real reason he only saw Ben once a month wasn't just because of our relationship. It was because Addison had actively limited his access. Leonard claimed that when Addison first got sick, she became incredibly protective of Ben, terrified Leonard would take him away if she became unable to care for him. She basically told him she'd only accept his financial help if he agreed to her terms of limited visitation. Leonard, consumed by worry for Addison and Ben's stability, had agreed. Over time, this arrangement became deeply entrenched, and when Edwin entered the picture, Addison became even more restrictive. He showed me text messages from the past year, Leonard repeatedly asking to see Ben more often, to have him stay overnight. Addison making endless excuses or outright refusing. These were from the exact same time period as the texts Leonard had shown me earlier, where he was supposedly begging for more time. Asked why he didn't fight for more access through the courts. He said he was afraid that if he pushed legally, Addison might completely cut him off from Ben, or even move away. He also worried the stress of a custody battle would worsen her MS symptoms. So, he kept paying the rent, accepting minimal visitation, all to maintain a fragile peace. Then he pulled out a small notebook from his folder and handed it to me. It was filled with drawings, notes, little stories, a journal of every single interaction with Ben since he was born. Alongside the entries were photos of them together at various ages. Seeing this, it hit me hard. Leonard might have hidden Ben from me, but he clearly, deeply cared about his son. The journal entries were heartbreaking, full of things Ben had said, milestones Leonard had missed, his desperate hopes for their future relationship. He wanted me to understand, he said, that while he made the terrible mistake of hiding Ben, he wasn't a father who had abandoned his child. He was trying to navigate an impossible situation where maintaining financial support and limited access seemed better than risking no relationship at all. By this point, I was completely overwhelmed. I told Leonard I needed air, needed to step outside. Holly, ever vigilant, noticed and followed. We sat on a bench, and she pointed out something crucial I hadn't considered. What if Leonard was being manipulated? The arrangement he described, Addison holding access to his child hostage in exchange for financial support, it sounded potentially coercive. It didn't excuse Leonard lying to me, but it certainly painted his situation in a different, darker light. After talking with Holly, I went back inside. I told Leonard I needed the full picture, and that meant I wanted to speak with Addison directly. I half expected him to panic, but instead, he seemed almost relieved. He said he'd hoped I'd want to talk to her, that it might help me understand the full complexity. He offered to set up a meeting, but I declined. If I was going to talk to Addison, it had to be without his involvement. I asked for her phone number instead. He hesitated, then gave it to me, saying he'd text her to let her know I might contact her. I left feeling more confused than ever. Hiding a child from your serious partner for 2 years isn't something you just get over. When I got home, I debated whether to actually contact Addison. What would I even say? "Hi, I'm your ex's girlfriend who just found out about you and your son?" It felt incredibly awkward, but I needed to hear her side. I finally worked up the courage and texted her that evening, introducing myself and asking if we could talk. To my surprise, she responded almost immediately, saying she'd been expecting to hear from me. We arranged to meet the following afternoon, today, at a different coffee shop. I was a nervous wreck all morning. Holly offered to come again, but I knew this was something I had to do alone. When I arrived, I immediately recognized Addison from her photos. Thin, pale, but still beautiful. And thankfully, she was alone. I wasn't ready to meet Ben or Edwin. Our conversation was intense. Addison confirmed much of what Leonard had told me, but with some critical differences. Yes, MS. Yes, Leonard pays their rent. Yes, Edwin is her fiancé, in her life for 3 years. But according to Addison, Leonard's limited access to Ben was his choice, not hers. She claimed she'd repeatedly invited him to be more involved in Ben's life. But Leonard, she said, always had excuses about work or other commitments. She even showed me texts where she invited Leonard to Ben's school events or offered additional weekend visits, invitations he declined. These were from the exact same time period as the texts Leonard had shown me, where he was supposedly begging for more time with Ben. The contradicting evidence left me utterly baffled. One of them was lying. But which one? Addison also claimed that while Leonard did tell her he was dating someone new, he said it wasn't serious and asked her not to mention me if we ever met. This directly contradicted Leonard's claim that she knew how serious our relationship was. The most disturbing part came when I asked about the financial arrangement. Addison said Leonard originally offered the rent payments when she was first diagnosed, which matched his story. But she claims she's tried to reduce his financial obligation several times, especially since meeting Edwin, but Leonard insists on maintaining the arrangement. According to Addison, Leonard repeatedly told her he wants to provide this level of support and would be hurt if she rejected it. She admitted the money has been essential, especially with her medical bills, but said she'd become increasingly uncomfortable with their arrangement as her relationship with Edwin grew serious. When I asked why Edwin didn't contribute more financially, Addison confirmed he was a musician with limited income, but said he contributed what he could. She seemed genuinely embarrassed talking about their financial situation. By the end of our conversation, I was more confused than ever. Was Leonard manipulating both me and Addison? Or was Addison manipulating Leonard and now trying to manipulate me? Or were they both twisting certain aspects of the truth? I left the meeting with Addison feeling completely drained. On my way home, a text from Leonard. "How did things go with Addison?" I didn't respond. I needed time. When I got home, there was a package at my door. From Leonard. A USB drive with a note saying it contained additional evidence. I plugged it in and found years of text exchanges between Leonard and Addison, plus more financial records, and even recorded phone calls, which I'm not even sure are legal. I spent all evening sifting through these records, and they painted yet another picture. In some exchanges, Addison did seem to be restricting Leonard's access to Ben. In others, Leonard appeared to be the one limiting his involvement. The financial discussions showed both of them alternately pushing for more or less support at different times. I honestly didn't know what to believe anymore. Both Leonard and Addison seemed to be manipulating the narrative to suit themselves. The only truly innocent party in all of this was Ben, caught in the middle of whatever game these two were playing. I texted Holly everything I discovered, and she's coming over tomorrow to help me sort through it all. She thinks I should confront Leonard with the contradicting evidence and see how he responds. So, I've agreed to meet Leonard one final time tomorrow evening. After that, regardless of what he says, I think I need to remove myself from this mess completely. Final update **. Hey, everyone. Final update on this whole nightmare. Thanks again for all your incredible support through this craziness. I met Leonard last night for what I had decided, with every fiber of my being, would be our absolute last conversation. Holly came along, staying discreetly in her car outside. I wanted to do this myself, but definitely needed someone nearby, just in case. I brought everything. Addison's texts, Leonard's texts, all their different stories, even that message where he blatantly asked her to back up his version of events. When Leonard showed up, I laid it all out on the table. I want the full truth, I told him, my voice unwavering. No more BS. No more leaving stuff out. This is your last chance to come clean. He sat there, utterly defeated, for what felt like an eternity. Then, finally, he admitted it. He hadn't been honest. Not with me. Not with Addison. So, here's the real, ugly truth. Leonard and Addison? They never truly ended things. Not properly. All that money he was sending wasn't just to help Ben and his sick ex. It was his twisted way of staying perpetually involved in their lives. By being their constant money source, he ensured Addison couldn't ever completely move on, even with Edwin right there. And Addison? She used Ben as her own bargaining chip. Sometimes allowing Leonard to see him, sometimes shutting him out, all to keep the money flowing. They had both been playing each other for years, each leveraging what the other cared about to get what they wanted. And those weird, contradictory texts. Leonard confessed he sometimes purposefully turned down chances to see Ben so he could complain later about not getting access, making Addison look like the villain. Meanwhile, she would invite him to events knowing full well he couldn't come because of plans with me, so she could look like the accommodating parent while still keeping Ben away. It was a vicious cycle of manipulation. When I asked him, my voice hollow, why he hid all of this from me, he said his past exes always left him when they found out, telling him to get proper custody and stop the financial entanglement. He didn't want to hear that again because this messed-up arrangement, this dysfunctional triangle, gave him some kind of purpose he wasn't ready to give up. The worst part, the truly heartbreaking part, was about Ben. Leonard does love his kid, I believe that. But he'd been using him, his own son, as a pawn in this sickening power game with Addison. Him barely seeing Ben wasn't just about hiding him from me. It was how things had been long before I ever came into the picture. He liked the idea of being Ben's dad more than actually doing the hard, consistent work of being a dad. I looked at him, feeling nothing but a profound emptiness, and told him I was completely, irrevocably done with their drama. I suggested he get into therapy immediately to address his deeply unhealthy issues with Addison and his approach to being a father. I told him, firmly, to get legal custody and proper support arrangements for Ben's sake. He started crying, begging for another chance, promising he'd fix everything, change everything. But it was too late. The trust was obliterated. And, honestly, I didn't want any part of their mess. I deserved so much better than getting caught up in someone else's toxic, never-ending family drama. I texted Addison afterwards, just to say I wouldn't be contacting her again. I wished her luck with her health and her engagement to Edwin, and sincerely hoped they'd find a better, healthier way to parent Ben. She just replied, thanks and sorry about everything. To those who suggested I give him another chance because he was supporting his family, it wasn't that simple. This entire situation was a festering wound, toxic to its core, and it would have inevitably poisoned and ruined any future we tried to build. And to those asking if I'll check on Ben?
No.
I don't think that's my place. My heart aches for that little boy, truly. But getting involved now would just add another layer of drama to his already incredibly complicated, messed-up life. This entire experience has been a brutal lesson. It's a stark reminder that even when you think you know someone inside and out, there can be entire hidden worlds lurking beneath the surface, waiting to explode and leave you picking up the pieces. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever been blindsided by a secret this big in a relationship? What would you have done differently in my shoes? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm genuinely curious to hear what you think.